Hey everyone, this is Dibya Sahoo here, and today in this video I will be talking about whether you should implement BIMI on the organizational domain or on a subdomain or on an entirely new domain. So this is a lot of confusion which is happening right now over the internet, and this is probably a frequently asked question around BIMI, so which I will try to simplify in my video. So in this video, I will not go into the detail of what is BIMI because I have already created a separate detailed video on that topic. But for a quick overview, BIMI is a new framework that enables you to control what logo you want to show in the recipient's mailbox. So you can see on the screen. So let me move my pointer also here. So here you can see two screenshots are there, which I have added here. So in one, the logo of Airbnb is not visible in the email, but while in the second email, the logo of PayPal.com is visible in the email. So this is all because of whether the brand is fully compliant with BIMI guidelines or not. So, in fact, this month, that is in July 2021, Google came out of beta testing phase with BIMI, and they have given a official stamp to BIMI. So now it is expected that BIMI is soon going to gain more and more popularity among the marketers, among the email marketing industry. Okay, BIMI looks interesting to all of us, but the original question with which we started this video is whether we should implement BIMI on the organizational domain or on the subdomain or on an entirely new domain. So to answer this, first we have to understand what are all these different type of domains which we are talking about and how really BIMI works. So that is very important to understand before jumping into which domain to pick. So here on the screen, you can see an email which is received from cnn at the rate transactional.cnn.com. So let me move my pointer here. Yeah. So here you can see the sender domain is cnn at the rate transactional.cnn.com. So this is the sender. So now in this sender, which one is organizational domain, which one is a subdomain? So that's where the confusion starts. So in this case, transactional.cnn.com, this is a subdomain. And subdomain of what? So subdomain of the main organizational domain, that is cnn.com. So the organizational domain is cnn.com and subdomain is transactional.cnn.com. So that's the difference between an organizational domain and a subdomain of that organizational domain. So organizational domain is sometimes also referred as main domain or a primary domain. So keep a note of that. So you might read some of the articles on the internet where this organizational domain is referred as a main domain or a primary domain. So all those are same. So now that we are clear with what is organizational domain, so now let's see the BIMI logo which is visible here. So you can see that the brand logo is visible even if the email is sent using a subdomain. So in this case, as I have shown you, the email is sent using transactional.cnn.com. So even if the email is sent using this subdomain, this logo, that is cnn.com's logo, is visible in this particular email. So what does this really mean? So does this mean that you can implement BIMI on a subdomain also, and BIMI is not required on a organizational domain, or you should not be using a organizational domain in your mail? So what is this? So let's understand the detail and see how BIMI works, and that is where we will come to know which domain is used and how all these things really work. So BIMI works in sync with DMARC. So if DMARC is a new term to you, just read some of the resources which I have shared below in the description. So I have shared some important links around DMARC, so you can go and read about DMARC there. So now coming back to how DMARC works in sync with BIMI. So if let's take two example. So first example, if an email from, that is sub.domain.com, passes DMARC. So the from address, if the from domain is sub.domain.com, that is a subdomain, and it passes DMARC, but it aligns to domain.com, then the BIMI record will check against domain.com. So even if the mail is sent using a subdomain, but if the DMARC passes and align to the main organizational domain, that is domain.com, then automatically the system will try to check the BIMI record on the main domain, that is domain.com. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario, if an email from is sub.domain.com or example.com and it passes the DMARC, but the DMARC is aligned with sub.domain.com. So the DMARC is aligned with a subdomain instead of the main organizational domain. Then in that case, BIMI will first try to check the BIMI record on sub.domain.com. So if the DMARC is passed on a subdomain, so when I say passed, so DMARC is passed and aligned with a subdomain, that is sub.domain.com, then automatically system will first try to check BIMI on the subdomain. And if the record is not found on the subdomain, then in that case, the system will check for the BIMI record on the main domain or on the organization domain, that is example.com or domain.com, whatever is your main organization domain. So that's the two scenario of how really BIMI works in sync with DMARC. So I have created a separate detailed video on domain alignment too. So if this alignment is a new term and you are not very aware of this, so you can get the link of that domain alignment video in the description below. So the next question which comes here is, can one implement DMARC and BIMI both on a subdomain? So technically, the answer is yes, this can be implemented. But however, keep in mind that the standard BIMI specification requires DMARC to be at the organizational level. That is your primary domain. So the standard recommendation is to implement DMARC and BIMI on the organizational domain and not on the subdomains. So if you implement DMARC and BIMI on the organizational domain, then this will help you save a lot of repeated work which you need to do at the subdomain levels. However, different mailbox providers might give their users more flexibility than the standard recommendation, and they might allow DMARC and BIMI to be implemented at subdomain level, and they might skip some of the standard recommendations also. However, it is always recommended to follow the standard recommendation, but because that is how most of the mailbox providers are going to function, and they are going to check for the DMARC and BIMI record. So BIMI is a very new, right now, a very new framework. So there might be a lot of changes in the specification and in the way how BIMI is going to be adopted globally might change over the period of time. So it is always recommended to keep watching the main BIMI website, that is BIMI.org website, bimigroup.org, to get the latest information about the BIMI guidelines. So here you can see one example of Verizon Media, that's Yahoo, who supports BIMI record on subdomains too. But this again, Verizon Media has also recommended that you should do BIMI and DMARC on the organization domain only. So that's the standard recommendation. Again, Vision Media has also given. So overall, what's the conclusion? So the conclusion is implement BIMI and DMARC on organizational, that is main or the primary domain. So if DMARC is not enforced on your main domain, then overall your BIMI will fail and logo won't be visible uh, to the end user. So that's the standard recommendation. So here on the screen also you can see, like, even if you have implemented BIMI and DMARC on the subdomain, but if DMARC is not enforced on the main domain, then overall the BIMI as a compliance fails. So your domain won't, your email won't be compliant with BIMI, and the logo won't be visible with most of the mailbox providers. So the standard recommendation is to have a compulsory strict DMARC. When I say strict DMARC, the value of P should be quarantine or it should be reset, and both DMARC and BIMI should be implemented on a primary domain level, that is the organization domain. So you can check your BIMI audit report on Grade My Email. So that will tell how much your domain is prepared against the BIMI compliance. So as I mentioned, BIMI requires DMARC at enforcement, and along with that, a properly formatted SVG image under the tiny PS standard will be also required. There is one more thing which is required, which is known as VMC certificate. It's not a mandate across the board, but Gmail has recently made it mandate on its platform. So you should also get a VMC certificate for your logo. So with this, I'm done with the today's video, and I hope the video was helpful. You can check your BIMI audit report on grademyemail.co. So there you will get a complete picture of whether your domain is compliant with BIMI or not, and what are the potential issues which need to be addressed. So for any questions, please feel free to comment below, and I would be happy to answer all those. Thank you. Bye bye.